Hey folks, it's me, the incredible edible Dr. Groovy. Scott Grove from GroovyMusicLessons.com. I'm going to teach you some more about speakers and a lot of things about them. So people with extended range instruments, people who do sound stuff, bass players, again, guitar players with 7, 8, 9 strings, and anybody who is worried about speakers in one kind of cabinet, whether it's 100% sealed or if it has a port in it. I'll show you all that stuff in a minute. Or if it's open back or closed back, you can have the exact same speaker in one cabinet and it'll be fine for 100 years. Put it in another cabinet, and I'll tell you about that, and it will blow within a gig or two. Okay? Makes a huge difference. So if any of this excites you, boing, swing, baby with an apple in its fist. Okay. Then stick around, because this is solid advice from a solid guy with solid sound reinforcement, everything. Some people are like, what? In former videos, Scott, so now all of a sudden you're a master of live sound. Yes, I am. You guys don't know my entire history. I have done front of house sound for major bands, major tours for 10 people, 500 people, 5,000, 50,000, and 100,000, doing front of house all day, all night, the whole next day, for many, 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 many concerts. So I more than know what I'm talking about. I have built sound systems from, I mean, literally from the boards all the way to the end. So more than qualified than anybody you're going to run into today, that's for sure. Okay, so on speakers, excursion. Remember this word, it's important. Excursion on a speaker, let's go with like an 18-inch speaker, an average. It's when it's sitting still until something hits it, like a kick drum or a bass guitar or whatever. I'm using sub stuff right now, or bass amp stuff for people who use big speakers for some flipping reason on their bass amps. So it's the travel amount from stationary position. It will go the other way too, because it has to reflex and then settle back. So they take the actual excursion travel being from, again, a still point till you hit something and it goes to its absolute limits till it's about ready to blow. How far does that travel? On average, on an 18 that's done right, about 2.5 inches until it comes back and rests at 0. Okay, so a lot of these have the 2 terminals, of course they do, positive and negative, and then they got 2 little wires that run up there to the speaker cone, and into your diaphragm and everything. So what's going to happen is human error. There's a buttload of that out there. So machines are making this, machines are making that. But then when it's time to put all this on and put those 2 little leads on, you've got 2.5 inches of excursion and you've got 2 inches of wire going to it. Think about it. It's gonna pull your wires either out of the speaker cone, or it's going to pull them right directly off of right there, yeah, your terminals. So check that out before you ever plug it in. Ounce of prevention. If you think you blew a speaker, check first and see if they're hanging down, because that happens more times than you can imagine. Human error, they just cut it too short. You circumcised people know what I'm talking about. And so make it longer. Put an extra inch on anything if it's not long enough already. If it's not 3 inches or longer, let's add on to it. Okay, so always go from the side of the terminals, real quick, unsolder that. You don't want the heat to transfer to the cone, because it might fall out of there, and going there and taking care of it takes a little more know-how than it does to just simply solder it back to here. So take it off the terminal, put a little more length on, another inch, solder it back on. Don't put so much on that it rattles against the actual cone of the speaker. It'll be like that, just like filling up your cone with a bunch of BBs and expecting it to sound right. It's going to rattle. So, common sense. Okay? And remember, speakers, the excursion, again, is just measuring out this way. Speakers come back in this way. So it could have a total travel of 5 inches. Okay, so that could be, some people, they'll put that down. The excursion rate is 5 inches, and some places they call that correct, some places usually not. It travels 2.5 inches, but then it comes back and then it finally rests in the middle. Okay, it's just kind of like a guitar string. You hit it real hard, it goes blah 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 blah, and then finally goes back to where you tuned it. That's why it always sounds sharp when you hit it. You need to tune flat a little bit on the thicker strings. Thicker they go, flatter you tune. Anyway, that's something different, and you've probably heard it before from me. And also, this whole thing, if you have speakers in your amp, and you are a person who plays bass, or anything with bottom end in it, or a guitar player that plays an extended range instrument, which means you have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 35 strings, or you tune everything down till it just basically is calling on the depths of hell, but you're blowing speakers. Hey, you could have the wrong speakers, or you could easily, bass players or guitar players, doesn't matter, you could have one speaker in an amp, or a set of speakers, whatever, that's inside of your cabinet that works perfectly and will last a lifetime. Take those and put it in a different type of cabinet, and they will blow pretty much right away. And it costs extra money if you want to get blown. That means you have to repair it. That's why it costs extra money. Happy endings. So I'm going to go over that real quick, and you're going to get dizzy because I'm going to carry the camera around. So any of this possibly interests you, stick around. Okay, here's the camera for Scotty. Whoa, whoa, hello kitty. Kitty, 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 kitty. Okay, so here we go. Number one, the most stupid thing, but most overlooked thing. And does this mean you're stupid? No, it means you're usually just uninformed. Guitar amp. I've done this little part before, always worth mentioning again. Cabinets with open back. This here's a 1/4 closed back. Okay, and then 3/4 of it is open. You will notice, and this is different if you have a tube amp slightly, because you need some ventilation. Have you noticed that if you take your amp like this and play it, it sounds one way? But if you take the amp and put it right on up against a solid thing like that, it sounds like tons more bottom end. And then if you move it an inch away from there, it will sound different. That's called tuning. Okay, so that will actually change the sound of your amp. If you're at a gig and you want more bottom end, put it up against a flipping wall. Okay, and see if that's the right bottom end. If it's got too much and it's mushy, move it away an inch or two from one side to the other. Maybe you want to angle it a little bit, but it will make a huge difference. And it makes a huge difference on Excursion as well. What does that mean? Again, how far the speaker will actually travel, and if you can possibly blow the speaker. Okay, so this makes a difference on if your current speakers will handle the speakers that are in your amp, or just the way they are built. If you have a solid state amp, you can put it right up against the wall and do that fine. If you have a solid state amp and you want to play a 7-string or an 8-string through it, and it is an open back amplifier, you should really change that quite quickly. And go ahead and either put it against the wall all the time, or simply cut out a few more little boards here and make a Velcro, or just screw it on a total enclosure for the back of your amp, so there is no way that any air can get in there. You want it sealed tight. These are called ports. This is a huge port, and it's an open back amplifier is what it is, but it is a port, and I will show you what that is. So this allows for the speakers to have a further excursion. So you put a 7-string into an amp that was designed long ago when there was no such thing as 7 strings or 8 strings, and that speaker is designed for E or maybe a drop D, and that's about it. When an amp is actually open like this, the excursion is greater, meaning the speaker will travel outward farther, giving you a better chance of surpassing the amount of excursion that the speaker was designed to take. So therefore you will probably blow your speaker if that is the case. If you seal it up, those same speakers, honestly, just in a sealed cabinet, that's what makes the difference for everything. For everything else I'm going to discuss out from here on out is the exact same thing. A sealed cabinet will, of course, sound different, give you more bottom end automatically, but it changes the actual excursion amount, and you can add more bottom end into it, and your excursion rate changes. So you can probably plug a 9-string guitar in there and be fine. Okay? Whereas if you do it on this amp the way it is, you're probably going to blow the speaker, just because it's going to go too far and you're going to pull the diaphragm directly out from the center, and it's not a good thing. So that will be a blown speaker. Okay, bass amps. Same thing. My Ashdown cabinets, the 410Hs out of England here, these are great. They are 100% sealed. There are no ports anywhere. A lot of bass cabinets will have ports down here, like a teal cabinet, or they'll have little holes, like say, oh, these speakers up here, see that hole there? That's a monitor wedge actually, but that's a port, and there's another one down there. There's these little things up here. They've got one there. Hey, custom. They got one there. So that is because it's a 10-inch speaker, and they're trying to get some more bottom end out of it. 75 watts is what that is, and they're just trying to get more bottom end out of it, which is fine, but you can blow that speaker easier by that being open like that. But then again, they tune the cabinet and they think you should be smart enough or aware that 75 watts RMS is what that is, so don't be throwing a whole bunch more in there. So the 10-inch speaker probably goes down to about 75 hertz, and you can maybe get down to 60 hertz with those ports in there. Sure, you got more bottom end, but people like to overdrive these, so they will probably blow the speakers, because the excursion rate will be more. It will be able to push out further because it is an open cabinet. It is not sealed. If it was sealed, you would not have as much bottom end, or you could even get more bottom end, but as I know, that is tuned to give you more bottom end, but you wouldn't blow the speaker in half the time as you would the way it is. Okay, so again, bass players, if you have totally enclosed cabinets with 0 ports, nothing else, yeah, you can play those 5-string basses and even go lower, run synths in there, or if you're middying stuff, you can really flap it down. The excursion rate is not going to be huge. If you were to put a hole in the back to put a port, which is what little amps like this little Heart Key kickback, it's actually got about a 5-inch diameter port on the back. This is meant to tilt back like a monitor, and that's to give you some more bottom end that you can't get out of the 12-inch. But you have to be very aware of the wattage on this thing and how loud you could turn it up, because the excursion is going to be longer. It can push that cone out further since you have opened up the cabinet in the back. Okay, so again, if it's sealed, 100% sealed, you can put more through it and lower frequencies. But then again, some cabinets like this that are too small basically to physically reproduce low end at the levels you want, they actually tune the cabinet by putting a port in it. So therefore you have a little bit of drawback that you can't make them as loud, because you will blow the speaker, because now you just opened it up and the excursion rate is different. It will push further quicker when you have an opening in the cabinet. So that's why you see so many things like this. So consider that when buying speakers and when buying instruments and when buying PA stuff. If you want these great big huge solid front loaded cabinets for your PA, 218s that don't have any ports in them, they will thump hard and so forth, and they will actually stay in the foreground, meaning if you're in a small club, you know, got a few of these double 18 speakers, they're going to kick ass on the dance floor, but they will not travel to the back of the room very well. But then if you add ports to them, they're really good. The excursion amount is going to be crazy, so you better double up on your bottom end cabinets and power, so forth. Therefore, you don't have to push as much through them. It's just a thing you have to know, and I'm trying to explain it in as few words as possible. But we're basically on guitar amps and such, but the sound stuff makes sense too. Just so you'll remember, with little ports like this, it is done to try to give a little speaker a little something extra, and it expects you to be smart enough to keep the volume and everything down and enjoy the good bottom end coming out of it, but don't push it, because that speaker will blow much easier than if these were closed. Okay, so again, guitar players with your extended range amplifier or guitars, if you're running into a amp like this with an open back, very possible you can take those Celestians or whatever have you and blow them up really quickly. If you take the same speakers and put them in a 412 cabinet or whatever, a 212 cabinet that is sealed, look at the specs of the speakers, see if they can handle that. That's what it's going to come down to now. But the excursion rate will not be as much, and your speakers will actually last longer. Okay, so they will be able to take it more. Okay, or seal the back of the cabinet simply. Okay, so if you're going to go to those 7, 8, 9 string things, seal the back of your cabinet if it is solid state. If it is tube, forget it. Put a extension cabinet on the bottom that is sealed and disconnect the speakers from the top. Okay, do something like that, because tube amps, hey, they gotta have ventilation. So that is basically it. Just think about that. And again, the excursion, the actual amount of the wiring on the back of those speakers from the terminals to the actual cones themselves, because they rip right out of there all the time, because women are used to being told that that's 8 inches, so they only put that much wire on there, and it's generally women doing the soldering job in these places. So if you would tell them that's really 2 inches, they might actually get these measurements right. So again, watch your ports, know what all this stuff's about, know what excursion is, look it up if you want more details about it, and know why your cabinets are blowing speakers, or how they can handle stuff better. Again, being solid state, and you can close the backs in and then use an extra string or two and be okay with the speakers you have. Okay, once again, I am Dr. Groovy, and I'm as groovy as it gets. I currently have just received a couple minutes ago another Reverend Ron Ashton guitar right here, the black one. Again, I have my black one already, but somebody asked me to please put polka dots on it. So I have my 3 Ron Ashton guitars here in all available colors. The cream or white, the black with the polka dots, and the orange one back there, but I need a regular black one just to have it there. So I will drop things down and put them through cabinets in here and play with my excursion. You guys be groovy. Once again, I am the incredible, edible Dr. Groovy. Later.